you very much, first of all, for having some of the Mayoral candidates along to talk to you about our vision for transport. I have put out a policy and it's available online. It's a policy that I've worked with some of the people, including some in this room, whom I regard as best informed about the transport challenges that we face. It's a policy that I hope is a combination of being aspirational but also pragmatic. But the critical thing about it is that I think it's vitally necessary if we're to stop our city drifting further into worse congestion and gridlock. Drifting further, I say, because I believe that we're already, to a large extent, there. I live out in the countryside. I'm 10 kilometres away from the closest bus or train. My travel options are car or motorbike. I was tempted to have a one policy statement saying if we put everybody on a motorbike instead of one person in a 5-seater car, we could probably solve the problem. But that's scarcely a realistic way to go about it. What we do need is to front up to the nature of the problem we face. 1 million extra people in the next 30 years, 45,000 a year extra at the moment, 800 new cars registered in Auckland each week. A journey that used to take me 35 minutes to get into town can now take me an hour and a half. I've got 3 kids. They don't work in one set place. One's a businessman, works as an electrician, one's a refrigeration engineer, one works for an industry training organisation. They have to travel all around the city. And their complaint to me is, Dad, we are sometimes spending 2 hours a day stuck in congestion. A huge productivity cost to their work, but equally an enormous frustration, particularly if you're trying to get home on a Friday night and it's almost impossible around Auckland. We need change, we need bold change, we don't need tinkering around the edges to solve this problem. I welcome ATAP. I mean, yeah, isn't it good? We have Auckland Transport and the Council sitting down with NZTA, Ministry of Transport, Treasury and the Government. It should have happened years ago, but at least it's happening now. But the ATAP report, if we're optimistic, will stop congestion accelerating at the rate that it is at the moment. It won't, I believe, actually reduce congestion. We're like a dog chasing its tail. It's just not catching up with it. And nobody, I think, today, except maybe the Ministry of Roads in Wellington, believes that we can solve our problems simply by building more motorways. I think one of the difficulties is that disjuncture between the Wellington perception of Auckland and our own perception. We are not, I hasten to say to the Wellington officials, a large provincial town. We are a small global city, and we're getting bigger, and we have to adopt solutions that work in other international cities. So what I set out in the policy, first of all, is a focus on public transport. 1 or 2 people in this room maybe remember the trams that we had in Auckland. Right up till 3 years ago, they used to carry as many people in the 1950s, when we were a third the size we are now, as we were carrying in all forms of public transport up to about 2010, 2011. What we need is a rapid transit system. Robbie was right, he was just 30 years too early in his thinking. Yes, I'd start with busways. North Shore Busway has been a great success. It got the North Shore people out of their cars and onto public transport, and about half of them are travelling into town in peak hour now in that way. But if you ask about whether we have learnt the lessons of what works, why the hell have we just about completed the Northwestern motorway with its fine spaghetti junction and nice roads? I was on it yesterday. But guess what? No busway. And now Auckland Transport and NZTA saying, well, we'll probably have to add a busway in the next 10 years. I mean, it is that short-sighted thinking that I think that has condemned Auckland to the congestion problems we have at the moment. If you travel down Simon Street, some of us were on it last night on the way to another candidate's debate, you'll count 140 buses going up Simon Street in peak hour. It's bus congestion. So I believe that it is inevitable that we need a light rail system, starting downtown up Queen Street, Simon Street, Dominion Road. I believe that we need what will become, I hope, a congestion-free network that can then take, I believe it will be light rail, but I'm keeping an open mind and we'll look at the evidence on heavy rail. But if we take light rail out to the airport, then across to Manukau, across to Tamaki, Botany, Pakuranga, Panmure, we can create a network. God almighty, really. I think that, I'll say two other things very, very quickly. I think I agree with what Chloe was saying about cycleways. 80% of us used to ride to school on a bike. Now it's 3% of all secondary students. If you create safe cycleways, as we're trying to build in Puketapapa, Mount Roskill, hopefully we can get our kids back on their bikes, take up to 10% off traffic in the peak hour, and deal with the fact that our kids are the third most obese in the world. Thank you very much.